And now, back to the Dr. A Show with your host, Dr. Will Aguila.
Welcome back to the Dr. A Show. Our guest is Jackie Carpenter, author of Between Cell Block A and Miracle, There is Psalm 91. Her newest book is called Georgia Justice, and the story has been made into a movie called A Cry for Justice. You can view the trailer at acryforjusticemovie.com. Jackie, you got that dreaded phone call. Your son is now in jail, and he was put in Cell Block A.
Yes.
What was that like for your son?
Oh, my goodness, Dr. A, there's no way I can describe. You know what? If you get the book, The Bridge, Jason called me one day from Cell Block A when he was having a meltdown, screaming, and all I could hear were prisoners in the background. It sounded like they were killing each other, begging me to get him out of there. And I told him to go draw Cell Block A and to draw everything he saw and to write down everything he normally has but what he don't have anymore. And if you get the book, The Bridge, you will see that drawing in the book. It is just, it's so horrific. And you know what was so sad about it was when we got in there to see him, do you know, before we could get back home, that same deputy who told my son to do this had gotten the other two alleged copper thieves and taken them back down there to that construction site along with Fox 5 News cameras. And that night on the 6 o'clock news, they were telling the world that Jason had executed their cousin. So now Jason was also being tried through the courts of public opinion, the media, the bloggers. We were so buried that there was no way out of this thing.
So everything was stacked up against you.
Everything. There was nothing good, Dr. A. We went out. We hired the best attorney, I think, in the world. And he came in and he looked at it and he said, oh, this don't look good. This does not look good. He said, you know, I'm going to give this 50-50 at best. Well, you know, Dr. A, that wasn't good enough for me. I knew my son was innocent. I knew what the deputy told him to do because my son called me that same day after he met the deputy. I knew it all. I was aware of all of this.
What goes through your mind when something like this happens? I mean, is it a surreal feeling? When does it hit you?
You know what? It hit me early on that this deputy was setting my son up. When I saw that 6 o'clock news cap, I knew my son was being set up, but I couldn't prove it. And see, here was the thing. This attorney didn't give us much hope. So what I did, I turned myself into a lawyer. I started studying Georgia law 25 hours a day, and I ended up in a hospital bed, getting a blood transfusion, dying from exhaustion. And but you know what? That's a good thing, because that's the place that God got me out of the law books, out of the computers, flat on my back with no place to look but up. And he said, you're searching the wrong books. And so when I got out, I went to get my medicine at CVS, and my eyes were drawn to this book stand, and there was a book there, Psalm 91, God's Shield of Protection. I took it home, and I climbed into my prayer closet, and I started reading it. See, in Psalm 91, God was telling me things man couldn't tell me. Man was telling me there was no hope, but God says, oh, yes, there is. Put not your trust in man, for I'm your defense. I can take the crooked way and make it straight. I can take devices of the wicked and make them do not effect. I knew none of this before, Dr. A, and I had no clue Psalm 91 was God's shield of protection, but you know, that's what kept me alive. I had to hook up to it for life support because, you know, when I would go in those attorney meetings and that attorney would come across the table at me and say, you need to wake up. It's not a matter of whether or not he's going to prison, Jackie. It's a matter of how long he's going for. But yet back in Psalm 91, God was saying, you don't have to be afraid of those arrows coming at you from those attorneys. You don't have to be afraid of the terror coming at you by night and those nightmares. Why? I'm going to put angels in charge of you, but I love the last verse. That's what I clung to. When he is in trouble, he will call upon me. I will deliver him.
Jackie, and it also says in the Psalm, if you say the Lord is my refuge and you make the Most High your dwelling, no harm will overtake you. No disaster will come near your tent. Yeah, very powerful words, Jackie. What happened in the trial? Because there were some issues with the Bible in the trial or the book that you brought too, right?
Yes, it was. See,
tell us about that.
See, okay, Psalms became my hospital of faith. My faith had to be rebuilt from the ground up, like that dream house. And when the last thing to me from attorneys was, Jason, tell your mama when she comes to court on Monday, leave that Bible of hers at home. Now, that's man's wisdom, because their logic was, if a juror sees your mama's Bible and they're a non-believer, well, that opinion alone can send you to prison for 30 years, Jason. But you know what? I did it. I took it like I did everything else, back to God. What do you want me to do? Because, see, Jason wasn't just charged with felony murder. He was charged with felony murder, 3 counts of aggravated assault, and possession of a firearm, and 4 of those charges would have sent my son to prison for a long time. But God said this, well, you've been telling everybody you're going to get this miracle through Psalm 91. Do you think you are? I said, yes, I am. He said, well, Jackie, do you want me to show up and deliver him with maybe 3 charges? At 50%, I said, no. He said, you want me to show up with 100% and deliver your son of all 5 charges? I said, that's right. He said, then you better show up with 100%. So the Bible went with me.
So Jackie, tell us about the trial. What was that trial like? How difficult was it?
I'll tell you what it was. When I opened the doors of the courtroom and walked in, I just realized that I had walked into those were the gates of hell, and that our family was going to go through hell for the next 4 days, and it was horrible. It was horrible. But you know what? The good thing was the lies started crumbling.
Wait. Yes. The people that said all those things, they started to recant?
Oh, yes. Look, the two Hispanics lived together for 10 months before trial. Jason and his father-in-law could not have any contact with each other for 10 months. But the two who lived together for 10 months, when they were questioned on the witness stand, everything they said contradicted each other. Nothing they said was right.
How about the deputy that was charging?
The deputy lost his job early on. The deputy lost his job when he took the illegal Hispanics back down to the construction site and alongside news cameras. He lost his job immediately after that.
So everything started to go into place.
Yes. God started bringing forth the truth, and the lies started crumbling. But you know what? You still don't know what the verdict's going to be, Dr. A, because you know yourself that you cannot put 12 people in a room and have them come out in one accord on 5 charges. Just to tell you right there, that's impossible. I don't care what. I mean, there's still people today who shouldn't have a gun. I mean, it's all over the board. But you know what? They did come out, and he was not guilty on all 5 charges. And everybody in the courtroom realized it was a miracle.
And in Georgia, do they have a stand your ground law?
They sure do. A Georgia stand your ground law. But you know what? Our attorney didn't even think that would help us at all. He did use it, and he had to fight to keep it in. But see, this thing wasn't really based on whether he had a fire. Do you know what it was all? It all came down to this: was it an accident, or did Jason shoot this man?
Got it.
It had nothing to do with the stand your ground law, because Jason had every right to defend his property.
So by the grace of God and by a miracle, he gets acquitted of all 5 charges, which is incredible, because even just possessing a firearm should have done it.
But you know, there's so many more things that were impossible, because the judge didn't want it in his courtroom, and he said, if that case comes to my courtroom and that jury finds him guilty of even a misdemeanor, I'm going to give him the maximum charge. So we had to start praying that would not be our judge, because everything was against us, everything. But we walk in, and it's not that judge. I mean, that's where the miracle started, right there. And then, you know,
Jackie,
after it was all over, I was sitting at my desk one day, and God spoke, just as plain as he did in my prayer closet. And he said, Jackie, what was the worst part of all that? I said, that's when Jason fought for his life in cell block A for 9 days, 24 hours a day. He said, write it down. He said, what was the best part? I said, oh, God, that's when you walked down that aisle with that great big miracle. He said, write it down. He said, Jackie, what was the bridge that joined hell to heaven, or the worst to the best? I said, that was Psalm 91. He said, write it down. So the next thing I knew, he started dictating, and I started typing, and the next thing I know, there's a book out there, The Bridge. And a year later, I was walking, and I heard that same voice, Dr. A, and I hate writing. I'm not an author. I don't enjoy it. And I heard him again. I said, God, I've already wrote the book. Please. He said, no, Jackie. He said, The Bridge covers the tragedy, the trial, and the triumph. What about those tears? I said, what are you talking about? He said, you got to tell about those tears. He started dictating. I started writing, and Georgia Justice came out, and it is a hard book. I don't know if you read it. It covers what I went through mentally, physically, emotionally, the spiritual battle going on inside of me with Satan saying, your son's going to prison. God saying, no, he's not. It was that warfare, that battle going on.
Okay, Jackie, quickly, what advice do you have for anyone listening that is going through a tragedy in their own lives right now?
I can't think of one a whole lot worse than this predicament we found ourselves in, with absolutely no way out known to man. But you know what? I found out that there's someone bigger than man. And I found out there's someone that can perform a miracle and man can't. See, that's the thing. Man cannot perform miracles, but God can, and God will. If you give it to him and trust him, he'll do it, and that's what it came down to, building my faith to the size of the grain of mustard seed and taking my eyes off man and what man was telling me and keeping them focused on what God said he could do and holding him to it.
Well, the book has been turned into a movie, A Cry for Justice. And when is this movie coming out, Jackie?
I would say probably within the next 2 to 3 months, yes. And they can find my books at bridgetoamiracle.com. And all about the movie at acryforjusticemovie.com.
Jackie, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. Thank you so very much for being on.
Thank you so much, Dr. A. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening today. Please check us out at our website, thedrashow.com, and listen to podcasts from previous shows. If you have any questions or you have an idea for a segment on the show, please email me through the website. We love to hear from you. Until next week, this is Dr. A wishing you a healthy new beginning.